Futureland because it is my returning viewers who were probably here before I hit go. My name is Dion. I reached financial freedom in about a decade. I started from a pretty bad position. I had 3 kids. I was a single parent. I was laid off from a police department in 2008. And because of the recession, whenever there's a recession, we don't need cops anymore because there's no more crime. And I found myself working at a CDL school making $17 an hour. Found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name that I didn't know about until the divorce. So I wasn't starting from a very good position. And I had tried for pensions twice. I tried the Marine Corps and they downsized after Desert Storm. And I tried law enforcement. And eventually I figured out that I have to make my own pension. And so that's what I did. I invested in buy and hold real estate. I used a couple of different versions of house hacking. And flash forward about a decade later, it took 8 years to reach financial freedom. I worked for 4 more years because I really liked my job. And then I finally retired last year at 52. So I started investing when I was 40. I pretty much made it there without ever having $1,000 in the bank. And life is very different once you reach financial freedom. I've been retired since 2022, retired in July, and took a few months to stabilize and get used to the idea of being retired. And right now, I'm spending a month or 3 in Portugal learning what the real estate market here is like. And this is literally the introductory experience of Portugal. Never been here before, never done a lot of research on it. I just knew 2 things that I liked, well, maybe 3. 1, it's close to the coast, right? It's a coastal country. 2, it is okay to invest here as a foreigner. And it's not that difficult to get a visa. So I could own properties here, whereas some of the other countries that I've looked at, it didn't seem like Americans or people from the United States could own properties there as easily. And 3rd, the weather. And so I'm going to try to, not a tech guy, I'm going to try to share my screen and see if I can show you my thought process. Of course, it's not on the site that I want. Let me see. If I can get my screen shared here. Of course, Zoom is not playing along. There we go. I just want you to be looking at the map that I am here. Portugal goes along the coast here, and the further north you get, just like in the US, the colder and more intemperate it is. Porto is one of the larger cities in Portugal. Lisbon is the capital. I watch a lot of videos from a couple called Our Rich Journey, who retired to Portugal using the stock method. And they live around Lisbon. And I think no, Chester, I don't speak Portuguese yet. At all yet. Like maybe 3 words, literally no research before coming here. Which is weird because I thought I spoke Spanish growing up in Southern California, went to Colombia and realized I don't speak Spanish. Spent 6 months studying Thai, went to Thailand, and everyone spoke English. So far, 90% of the people in Portugal have spoken English, or at least some English. So it hasn't been a challenge, but I've been in kind of the touristy areas. The part that I'm looking at is in southern Portugal. This entire coast on the bottom edge of Portugal is the Algarve. And Faro is where you fly into. It's kind of like the international airport for here. The first place I stayed was pretty close to Faro, Don Pedro's Marina in this area, very touristy area. And what was kind of shocking to me was everything I've seen of Portugal has basically been filmed in the cities. And if you're in Lisbon, or if you're in Faro, or if you're in Dom Pedro Marina, it's touristy, it's new buildings, it's very clean. And I want to avoid using terms that are not complimentary. They are nice cities. But between the cities, it looks, I wish I had some video queued up that I will put in future videos when I actually don't do a live stream and I talk about my experience here in Portugal. Everything is covered in graffiti. In Gary, Indiana, when I went with Millennial Mike a couple of weeks ago, there'd be some streets with some empty buildings, and here there are empty buildings everywhere with roofs demolished in. There's some really, and I'm in the lobby of a hotel, so there will be some interruptions. There are some strict building laws here if you want to, own a property and invest in Portugal. The first thing is, when you buy a property, you're not allowed to change the outside. You can, repair and maintain the outside, but you can't alter the appearance. But some of the buildings that you go into, the insides are completely updated. So when you're looking around at property between the cities, it looks like literally everything's been blown up. It's ruins, and some of the ruins are probably centuries old and been left alone. And then you get into the city, and my experience talking to the realtors here, I've talked to 2 different ones now, and I have a couple of searches set up, is in the cities, so many foreign investors have come here that a typical 2 or 3 bedroom house is 1 to 2 million euro, which is 1.3 to 2.5 million US dollars. And the numbers I had heard from most of the YouTube videos that I watched before coming here was from 2018 to 2020, 2018 to 2020, and prices were a third of what they are now. So they've over doubled in the last couple of years. And so what I'm going to be doing in the next few days is going between the cities to talk to realtors in the less urban areas where the prices are probably acceptable. But it seems like, on my experience going between cities, that I have to be okay living in what looks like a war zone to find a property that sounds anything like the prices I was told before I came here. And I am in the lobby of a hotel, so I'm going to try to say things that don't get me stabbed. But everything I've seen online said this was a welcoming country, and there were a couple of things to be prepared for, different cultural shock things, like no right on a red. Can't make a right on a red light. So that was a small thing. But the other thing is, nobody says hello. Nobody responds when you say hello. Everybody's got a pissed off look on their face, like somebody just peed in their Cheerios. And this is like the best weather right on the coast, beautiful beaches. And everyone is in such a bad mood. And I'm like the cheery guy trying to bring up the room that I'm in everywhere I've been. And it's not working. So that's the layout of what I'm looking at here in Portugal. So I don't know if I'm just in the wrong area in the Algarve here, or something shifted in the last couple of years, but my experience has not been what I've seen in almost all of the videos that I've watched. So not sure how committed I'm going to be to the property search. I'll still look and hope that, and try to keep this open mind, that I've just found the 200 jerks, and maybe there's a lot of better people here that I'm just missing. I met one guy who was great. At the pool at the hotel I'm in, actually stopped at the time to communicate, asked me some questions, and he explained a couple of things. Really cool concept was, in Portugal, the people don't care if you break the law as long as you don't break the social laws. And he took some time to explain the social laws, and it was a new and interesting way of looking at the way people perceive foreigners. And it's kind of what I heard in Colombia and Thailand, and pretty much anywhere I think you go, you're going to hear the same thing. If you take the time to learn the culture, the people will feel respected and then treat you better. So that completely made sense. But if anybody's been to Portugal before, tell me where the happy people are. People who literally live in a utopia with weather, on the beach. Went kayaking today, went into the caves of Benadryl. You literally go into these, you take a kayak into several different caves. Got some great pictures. And some tourists were happy. because, we were doing something fun, but everybody else is in such a bad mood. I don't know that I want to be around that. So, Tom, howdy. Thank you for that. Hope you invite some locals to your channel. If I can find one that's just not a raving jerk, sure, yeah, absolutely. And then I saw Evo. Howdy, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Let me see if there is a question here. If there is one, I don't want to miss it. I'm kind of famous for seeing a super chat, saying thanks, and then missing the question because it came outside of the super chat. So I want to make sure, Evo or Tom, if you guys have one here, that I find it. Very weird, my experience traveling here. The other times I've gone and spent a month or 3 in different countries, very positive experiences, very nice people, open, accepting, welcome. I don't know what the difference is here, but it's something. So that's the breakdown on Portugal, kind of the layout of the country, where I'm looking at, the price changes in the last couple of years. If you do a renovation, apparently the bureaucracy here is not very fun to work with. Everybody that I talk to says it takes forever to get anything done or approved. An example was somebody submitted for a permit where you had 15 days to respond. The permit took longer than 15 days to come in the mail, so they were fined €200. The amount of money it would take to fight that, to get the $200 back, €200 back, is more than the effort it's worth. So I always talk about in the United States, if you're looking at doing a renovation or rehab, build an ADU or ground up build, that you reach out to contractors in your area and you find out from them what their experience is like with the municipality. Not only what the permit process is like, but the approval process and how many times they change things, what the inspectors are like to work with. And if I'm getting from just the average person here that it's a nightmare, I'm curious to see if I can find some contractors here that I talk to see what that actual experience is like. So I'm not disheartened. I'm keeping an open mind. I'm still going to be hunting. Frustrated, that's the word. So hopefully we get to the questions tonight. One other thing that's going on while I'm here in Portugal, I am launching my course. I put the binder course together. You can get that at diontalk.com/binder. So that is the strategy. If you're not familiar with it, that gets my tenants to ask me to raise the rents. Makes it a lot easier to get cash flowing deals straight from the MLS. If I am very, very confident that my tenants are going to ask me to increase the rent much more than I would have been able to if I just raised the rent myself. So that's available for free. And in that course, I also include the spreadsheet that I use to run my business and the seller financing letter that I submit with all my offers now. There is also on that website the ability to book a call with me if you want to take a deep dive into your personal finances that you don't want to share in a live stream with a whole bunch of people. And the course launches today. So a couple of things I'm doing to recognize the first month of the course is anybody who signs up for the course in the first week, and which you can find at diontalk.com/lazy, because it is the course for the average lazy person, which translates to most people as busy. For the first month, I'm taking $100 off of the course. And for the first week, anybody who buys the course, I'm giving away 5 one-hour sessions with me one-on-one, so we can really go deep into your situation to figure out what the best path forward is. And I want to be completely transparent when it comes to my course, so that I'm not one of those guys that Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you ever go to one of their free events, you get a free event with a motivational speaker, and then at the end they go, but if you want the secret stuff, it's in the weekend course that costs $12,000, or if you want the step up program, or what they call upselling. Everything that is in my course, all of the information, is available on this YouTube channel. It's in about 6,000 hours of content, because I have 2 or 3 hour live streams like this, and at some point in there will be a 2 or 3 minute clip where we talk about the thing that will help you. So what the course is designed to do is to take all of the information on how I reached financial freedom, going from a not a great position to a good position, inheriting nothing, no money from parents, because I was in my 40s, and it'd be weird to get your money from your parents at that point. Low salary, single parent, to financial freedom in less than a decade, in a chronological order, filtered down to exactly what matters, to be actionable steps that you can take to track your progress, things that you can start doing day one, things that you'll do better as you go along. That's the point of the course. And then for the first month, once a week, we're going to be doing live Zooms where you can join the Zoom with everybody who's in the course, to kind of like the boot camp version, except it's just the full first month for everybody that takes the course. You don't have to sign up for a separate thing. And then going forward, I'm not sure what that will look like after the first month. I just know the first month, dependent on the Wi-Fi, since I'm going to be in Portugal for a part of it, I don't come back. I wasn't sure when I was coming back. I know it was between May and July, somewhere in there. It's looking like it's going to be early May. So that should tell you what I'm experiencing here. So let me get to the questions. David and Dave, howdy. Am I married yet? My answer whenever anybody asks me if I'm married, Dave, is this. So here's a note to write down. Every now and then. Chester, howdy. Michelle Meyer, howdy. Based on the video I just watched in the Three Amigos, looks like Dion will be back unmarried. Looks like buying in Colombia instead. Yeah, well, Colombia was nicer. If you watch Narcos, they had a really good quote in there, and I forget who it was from, but it was, Colombia is so beautiful, they populated it with evil men or something like that, because of the history of Colombia. When I was there, a lot of my friends, I was going to Colombia, and they said, be really careful. You're going to Colombia. It's very dangerous there. Nothing happened. We were totally safe the whole time. And while we were there, a friend of mine was robbed at gunpoint in Tacoma. So I didn't get a chance to make it to Medellin. I did go to Cartagena, and that was probably top of the list. We went out to Isla de Piratas, did scuba diving out there. Tons of islands with good scuba. So it's on the list. Mostly because of the people. I don't know. Did I meet anybody who was in a bad mood in Colombia? Saw a taxi cab driver not in a good mood. They were fighting over a fare, but that was about it. Alan, howdy from Turkey. You are 2 hours ahead of me here, right? And I see that you just finished your rehab or your renovation. I would like to see pictures. And I'm curious what the process was like in Turkey or is there a permit process? How was the government agency to work with? Miss Furley, howdy. Finally catching a live stream. This W2 is messing with your YouTube time. It's funny, to reach financial freedom, I binged a lot of YouTube, right? And here's a note to take. One of the biggest mistakes I made when I was starting out, and this is something we talked about on One Rental at a Time when we were recording the Three Amigos this morning. Bigger mistakes we made, things that we overlooked when we were first starting, and mine was not being educated, right? I was laid off from law enforcement. I had my house, and because I've always been good at keeping a house and my kids, but never keeping a girl around, which is why every now and then with married, and there's the overshare for today. But I moved from my house into an apartment and rented the house out. And I thought, I'm going to, my plan was, original plan and plan shift, buy a house, live in it for a year, buy a house, live in it for a year or two, however long it took me to save the down payment to do owner occupied, and then do that every year or two. So within 10 years, I'd have at least 5 rentals, and 5 rentals that cash flowed well enough would replace the income that I had as a police officer. So my plan was to replace my income, because I hadn't even started researching financial independence yet and realizing that replacing your income is not the goal. It's replacing what you expend, and what we make is very different from what we spend. Because while you're working, you have the cost of working, saving for retirement, highest taxes, like all these things that we don't think about. So I had the wrong starting idea. And then if you're familiar with my content, single family houses didn't cash flow. So I switched to duplexes. But I was going to do this without any education whatsoever. I hadn't read any books, listened to any podcasts, audiobooks, or anything. And so that first year, I lost about $6,000 to my rent. I rented without a lease to a friend with a handshake, made every mistake you can make. I think I was purposefully looking for all of them, because here's here's one of those things where sometimes you hear a quote and most people don't know that there's a second half. So the quote, the early bird gets the worm. Most people don't realize that's half the quote. The second part of the quote is, that's true, but the second mouse gets the cheese. There are people like Robert Kiyosaki, Grant Cardone, Meet Kevin, Graham Stephan, right? Who had ended up, and then that was my start point. And then I find people like One Rental at a Time, Millennial Mike, Lumberjack Landlord, who've been investing for a long time, who've made the mistakes like I did in the beginning, all of those mouse traps when we start investing that we step in, that we learn what the trap is. And then we're sharing the information on YouTube for you to maybe avoid that trap, because the second mouse gets the cheese. I messed up by not watching any content, not taking in any information. Like I didn't even know how to find a lease, how to screen tenants, how to place tenants, how to find contractors. The fact that doing it all yourself was probably the worst way, especially when you're not very handy. All of the things that I learned after that came in the next few years, because of that mistake in the beginning of not binging content. The Riley Oak, am I saying that right? Howdy, ready for SpongeBob in SpongeBob voice. Dale, howdy, all-nighter hider. I'm here but working on my parents' rental in hot Bullhead City, and the tenant is waiting on me so she can go to work. The like has been hit. Thank you. I appreciate that. Every time you hit the like button, an angel gets its wings. And somebody retires before Matt. Just, you know, extra bonus there. Hey, Dale, hey group, what lender can you recommend? Thank you. So part of that could depend on the area that you're at, because local credit unions and local banks might have a different option for you, Dale. And I'm going to get through the comments, there's probably some good suggestions there. I like to have an order of operations for lending, and I will actually go through a version of that. And this is why I made the course, because we're going to have at least an hour or more, and it's 12:22 in the morning here. I don't know how long I'm going to go. Luckily, it seems to have quieted down here. Bars close at sunup, so there's something good about here. Squirrel. Completely lost the squirrel. Where were we? Lending. So in this like 1 or 2 hour live stream, this is going to be the blurb on how to do lending, Dale. And so there's an order of operations for it. So here's how I do it. And if you're just looking for somebody who you can call to get the best recommendation, because you just want it very simple and you're even lazier than me, which means you only want to talk to one, which to me is the worst way to do it, because being really lazy, I want to make sure I get the best rate, best terms, so that I have to do the least amount of investing to reach financial freedom. I start with a large lender, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, whichever one you hate the least. Words are hard. Whichever one you hate the least. Go to them, because their criteria is the most standardized. So if you can get approved by them, pretty much every other lender will approve you for more, pretty much. Then I hunt for deals. Once I have an offer accepted, and believe me, I'm going to look at over 100 deals, I'm going to make over 20 offers, and I'm finally going to get one accepted. That's been the math for me. So if you make 3 or 4 offers and you keep getting upbid, you get disheartened, you are 1/5. If you've made 2 offers out of 20, you're less than that. You have a long ways to go before you get to the point where you should start getting frustrated with not getting an offer accepted. If you get your first offer accepted, you probably offered too much. Once I'm under contract with a property, I then go to other lenders, local credit union, local bank, Guild Mortgage, Fairway Mortgage. Maybe call Matt, the mortgage guy. That's the guy that you should call if you just want to talk to one and don't want to go through the whole order of operations for lending, which you should, which is actually what it's called in the course, the order of operations for lending. You take the offer that the big bank gave you in writing, which means email, and you present it to the credit union, the bank, the broker, the lender, the Guild or Fairway, and you say, here's the loan offer I currently have from this large bank. Can you beat it? My first several ones, Wells Fargo, actually kept my mortgage. No one could beat what they were offering at the time. About 2 or 3 mortgages in, Fairway Mortgage started to be able to beat it. So what you do is, if the other lender that you present it to gives you a better offer, and we're not just comparing annual percentage rate, right? We're looking at the buy down rate, the percentage rate, the closing cost, whatever makes it a more attractive loan for you. If you get a better offer, have honor, take that back to that first bank, give them a chance to keep your business, because it was actually my first lender that taught me how to do this. She said, I can't go to my boss and say, I really like Dion. Can we give him a better interest rate? She said, if you give me something in writing, I can present it to my boss and show what a competitor is offering that we need to beat to keep the business. And so for the first few, they did. Eventually, Fairway beat them and they couldn't beat it. So my last 3 purchases and 2 refinances were through Fairway Mortgage. So at least give them a shot. But that's how I would do it. Large bank, then check all the other ones. And it sounds like a whole bunch of work, right? My course is the Financial Freedom for the Lazy Person. It's literally the name of the course. It's much more lazy to send 4 or 5 emails that are literally copy and paste. So you're not even having to write a new email, than to get a loan at a worse interest rate with worse buy down rates, maybe more closing costs that takes more of your money. So you have to work harder to acquire more assets to reach financial freedom. What we're trying to do is put systems in place. Those systems should make investing as systematized, as simple as possible, and as easy. It's not going to be easy, but you want it to be as easy as you can so that you're more likely to follow through. If you're in any way lazy like I am, or busy, like if you have a job, raising kids, want to have a life, all that kind of stuff. So you might not be lazy, you might be busy. That, Dale, is the order of operations. If you just want one, call Matt the mortgage guy. But I would go through the full order, include Matt in that, hey, this is what the bank is offering, can you beat it? And what Matt will probably do is find out where you live in the US, and then he'll refer you to one of the brokers that he works with in that area. That's how it worked for me. And that is Matt the mortgage guy. And he's got a channel right here on YouTube. Joan, howdy. Hey, everyone excited to catch the live instead of watching from Futureland? It's funny, I started that video with hello Futureland for anybody that doesn't know who I am. Michelle, thank you for dropping the name, Matt the Mortgage Guy. Good channel. I got pre-qualified with them at some point. It was a good experience. Yeah, I've had great experience reaching out to them too. They are on my current list to start with in my order of operations. Chester Williams, biggest bottom line is get started. Yes. The next 10 years are going to happen, right? No matter what you do, they're going to happen. In 10 years, do you want to look back and go, I wish I started? Or do you want to be the person right now? Think right now, you're in 2023. Can you imagine being the person saying, so glad I bought a property in 2013 when everybody was saying, don't do it because prices just passed 2008 and they have to crash? Like, who would not like to buy a property right now at 2013 prices? Michelle also drops Convoy Mortgage. I think they do conventional too, but they are his go-to for commercial. They also have DSCR lending on duplex, triplex, fourplex, maybe single family. I'm not sure. Not owner occupied if you're doing it as an investment. They offer a 30 or 40-year loan product on up to 8 units. So generally when I look for real estate, I stay 4 units or less because I want fixed rate residential loans. Convoy has that up to 8 unit fixed rate debt, 30 or 40 years. It's a little higher interest rate because it's a DSCR loan, which means a couple of things. One, your work history, your income, your debt to income ratio really aren't a factor. They're going to look at your net worth. I think you have to have half the net worth of the loan, and your credit score. Your credit score still matters with a DSCR loan. And then the rents have to be 1.1 times the mortgage. So if the mortgage is $1,000, the rents have to be at least $1,100. That's 1.1 times the mortgage. So if you reach out to Convoy Home Loans, they'll explain all of that to you, for you. Chester Williams, the one common enemy we all have is time. This is true. Time. So short from the other day. Time is your currency. Nobody knows how much you have, not even you. It's free and it's priceless. Most people sell their time. I teach people how to buy their time. How can I remember that? But not that I have 3 kids. Every now and then, like, oh yeah, I have kids. That's weird. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much for the help. Laura, howdy. Hope you're doing well. No, Chester, I have learned, what have I learned in Portuguese? I've learned that most people speak English. Thank you, bathroom, all the normal stuff. Don't touch me there, whatever. I watched them several times as well. John, howdy, John. Pallavi, howdy, hope you're doing well. And Rob, you gave me 3 words at the beginning. I don't remember what they were. It's me. It's going to take full immersion for me to learn another language. So I'm actually considering one of the benefits to getting out of these that I currently think are nice but have mean people into the more rural areas is I think the less touristy area, the more I might have to learn the language, which is the goal of coming here, is to do that. Wandering Doc, howdy. You'll be here in August for 3 to 6 months. Just moved to Mexico and absolutely love it. Can't see myself ever living in the US again. I don't mind the US. It gave me financial freedom. I completely understand the difference in money here that I think the average person is not making as a decent wage. I don't think. I think the economy here is not really great. The economy is not great in some parts of the US, but pretty much anywhere you can figure out a way to invest. And I heard recently that, and I almost said from who, but I don't want them to be blamed for this, that in some countries like Portugal and some other ones, in order to own property, sometimes it's generational. It takes several, you're either going to inherit it through families or it's going to take a long time to own it. And I can kind of see that, especially when houses are over $1 million. All right, stoners, howdy. Evo, howdy. You're in Monterey now. I'm wandering Doc, and 3 days in Cabo at some high-end hotels. I'm going to spend a month in Puebla and a month in Oaxaca. Nice. I have a friend going to Mexico. I think he leaves this week, and he's going for a couple of weeks. Angel R, howdy. Surprised you aren't buying in Colombia or a country you are more familiar with. Well, I wanted to experience a few, and I guess I need to do some research, because when I talk to some people about investing in Colombia, if you don't have Colombian citizenship, there's some really big hoops to jump through, and I could be totally wrong. So I need to do the research on that. And I'm also looking for the weather in Portugal, the lower this Algarve part that I'm in, is great. Like very rarely below 50 and very rarely above 90. But they use the other thing from Celsius or Fahrenheit where it's like 0 to 30. So I don't even know what temperature it is usually here until I learn the conversion. Because I went to school in America and they don't teach us anything. There's no hurricanes here. They say the people that I've talked to that are in their 40s and 50s say they remember one in their life, and it was a big thing. It wasn't even a big storm. It was a big thing because it's so rare. Colombia, Florida, those kind of climates, they tend to get a lot of those. So I'm trying to not live places where everything's trying to kill you. I don't want to go see Australia. T. Adams. If you cry, they will help you out. Nice. I have to spend some time there. It does sound like paradise, no English, John. Yes. For some things, yeah, communication is easier when language is out of the equation. Read into that what you will. Esther, Clayton Morris is here. If I had thought about it, I might have reached out a couple of times. I was an avid viewer of his a couple of years ago. I'm not so much into the Redacted, which is his current web YouTube channel, and he's more into one side of the political aisle than the other, and I'm pretty much in the middle. Wandering Doc, the social and dating environment is leaps and bounds better than anything in the US. I can't even describe it. People are just so pleasant and treat you so kindly. That was my experience. Not here. I haven't been here long enough to know that yet, but in some other countries. Party in Portugal when you hit 20K. No, I don't know that many people would want to come here. Well, although if I had a party here, there'd finally be some happy people here. So maybe party in Colombia when I hit 20K. Brian, howdy. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. And Tom Kine, thank you so much. I appreciate those. I think I was missing, make sure I'm not missing any more here. I'll come back up to where those were. And if anybody's from Portugal, I hope I haven't offended you with me being transparent and honest with what my experience has been like here. I'm going to go through the questions in order, but Angel, I just see your question on why do I consider buying abroad when you have the flexibility to rent nonstop anywhere in the world? Why I take on the responsibility? I've had that conversation the other day with, here's why I want to buy in another country instead of rent perpetually. My brain is still in investor mode. Even though I have financial freedom and I never have to work again, I would rather own an asset in another country or in the US that appreciates, that gets principal pay down, that could be turned into cash flow, right? If I'm not here in Portugal, I could do midterm rental. I know short-term rentals are a bit harder to get here, but it's possible. So I would be able to, I'd have control. That's the main reason for wanting to own instead of rent, is that control. Wandering Doc, yeah, my definition of a well-lived life is not being comfortable all the time with the same routine, same language. That is boring. Welcome to Europe, Rob. Howdy, thank you. It is kind of cool here. I've gotten to speak Spanish and Dutch, no Portuguese because I don't know it. And it's not close enough to Spanish to know that you know it. Too many words are different. Rock and Roll USA. Howdy, Portugal is fantastic. I'm ready to get off from Greece and lived there for 9 years. Also a great pick. Nice. I'd Rock and Roll USA. What town? What area? Where did you find the people that weren't raving lunatics? Matt. Howdy. Matt Motley. That's why I absolutely love Panama. And Matsky's going there, so I might have to consider that. Everyone seems so happy every time I go down there. Hopefully going to stay there for a few months this year. Could definitely see myself retiring there later on. Duchess, howdy. You visited Lisbon for 2 weeks when in college and found the locals to be nice, but the nicest people were the Germans, British, and Dutch. Yeah, the Dutch here were really nice. But again, they're on vacation. They're tourists. I don't know if I've met anyone who live here yet. I might have, I don't know. Wandering Doc. Monterrey is the richest city in Mexico. Everyone I'm meeting here, most are professional doctors, but people will drive 2 hours to see you. It's a cool vibe. I like it. Nice. Panama is also great, but way too hot for me everywhere outside of, I'll try it, Phuket. Sounds like a lot like Phuket in Thailand. Laura, who is from Panama, I think it's time to plan my trip to Panama. People are friendly. Everyone said that about Portugal too. They said everybody is so nice. And I've met one that was nice. Wandering Doc. Keep in mind, went in Mexico City twice last year and absolutely loved it. Been traveling to Asia my entire life, so this is a totally new experience. Nice. I would sign up, but we don't have long-term renters yet. Yeah, sign up for. So you don't need the binder course, right? Yeah. Because that's if you ever switch to long-term tenants. There you go. But it is free, and it does have my spreadsheet that has all of how I run my business there. Wandering Doc. Come to Mexico, literally go on a date, and however it goes, they will drive you 45 minutes back to your house, even if it's drizzling. People look out for each other and their health. Nice. Mexico does seem like a good climate. Thank you, Chester, for linking that. I appreciate it. Miss Furley, I think you got lost somewhere. I've been stuck on approval pending for a week from the binder course in the Mighty app. So go to your email and search my name, Dion. Don't let autocorrect turn it to DEON because it will. But a lot of people were having trouble, and it sent the email out immediately when you did it, but it was magically hidden in your email. They haven't found it in their spam or their normal, but when they search my name in their emails, the email was sent out when you signed up for it. So Ms. Furley, check again and let me know. And then email me if I can get this back to chat somehow. And I will get my guys on it. Wandering Doc. Mexico City is like 15 different New York cities. You have everything from street food to fine dining in different bars. Way more things to do than New York, Tokyo. I lived in both. I've been to New York. My experience with New York was very much like my experience in Portugal. Not going back. To and fro global. Howdy. Made the mistake of moving to a city sight unseen. Never again. You're smart to be visiting first. For me, it made all the difference. Yeah. So I'm not only going to visit it first, I'm not going to be sold on it or turned off by it. I am going to spend at least a month here, and then might make another couple of trips here before I end up buying. I do kind of like the idea of Angel maybe renting one time for a while before buying, but we will see. Wandering Doc. I don't know. I'm about to apply for citizenship by descent in Portugal or Spain. The way he's talking right now makes me not want to leave Latin America. Duplex Dave. Howdy. I saw your name the other day and I thought Dividend Dave had changed his name or had a secret account. But no. But not today. Wandering Doc. Dion come to Mexico. People are happy here. Same vibe from people that I got in the Philippines. Nice. I want to go to the Philippines too. He doesn't watch my content, and if he did, he would never make it this far into a video. He'd be asleep by now. But my brother, I would really like to find him a significant other. Some people wake up one day and they realize life is amazing, not married, and you can be happy single. My brother's not that person. He is half a person and happiest when he's with somebody. He likes to be spending his time making somebody happy. But everybody he's met in the US so far has been horrible people. So him, like me, his people pickers, his people chooser is broken. So I would like to take him to the Philippines and find him a decent person. But every time we talk about the scuba diving, somebody says, oh, the water's really muddy, you won't like it there. And he's like, no, we're not going. Because for him, everything's about the water. Duplex Dave. But those Colombian women are just so, what's the word? Caliente. Muy. If I married a Colombian woman, I believe I know what my last words would be. Honey, is that loaded? Wandering Doc. Yeah, my tentative plan was 3 months in Mexico and 3 months in Colombia, but I don't want to leave Mexico. Yeah, nice. What's howdy in Portuguese? I don't know, but when you say howdy, you get this weird look, especially when you're wearing a cowboy hat. Bon dia can be said any time of day. Somebody told me it meant goodbye, but other people say it every time we're seeing each other. So bon dia, like good day. They say something else too, but that's what my memory held on to so far. I just say howdy, and I'm wearing a cowboy hat, so people giggle, which is the perfect response. It's exactly what I'm hoping for. I don't like when I take my pants off. Dividend Dave, I hope you're back in Tacoma early May. I need to be back at least for a short period of time because me and Millennial Mike are going to Portland for an event on the 18th. Howdy is hola, hola. Yeah, there you go. Like, because my brain didn't want to say it because it's Spanish. Hola. But the problem is if you say hola or bom dia, they start speaking Portuguese. If you say howdy, they go, oh, English? And what I've learned here from the Portuguese people is if you are American English, we are easier to understand than British English because the accent of the British English makes the words hard for them to understand. Makes sense? Dion should be sporting the cowboy hat. Howdy, exactly. Duplex Dave, that's very true. Isa, howdy. Go to Costa Rica. Punta province, absolutely beautiful. If you want good food, you got to cook it yourself. So here's what I didn't know about Portugal. I probably should have said this at the beginning of the video, kind of like a introduction to Portuguese culture. I have been to Colombia and Thailand for at least a month. So those are the two countries outside of military travel that I've been to, like Okinawa, for the time that I was there, doesn't really count. First was a million years ago. Second, and when you're in uniform, it's not the same. I hate that I squirrel myself like that sometimes. Oh, if you want good food, you have to cook it yourself. So I like Thai food, right? I'm a Thai food fan. If I can get radna made, it's usually off menu made by most places I go, but it's good stuff. And in Colombia, while the people are spicy, the food is not. There's literally no salt and pepper on the table. No one carries Tabasco sauce. There's no spice or pepper. Most of the people I know from Colombia are literally allergic to jalapenos, and their lips swell up if they get any on them. So we went to like little convenience stores to find Tabasco and pepper and just kept it with us till we go to a restaurant. Because it's good food. It's healthy food. There's, and Michelle, don't take this wrong. There's just no taste. It's like anti-spice, which is not what I expected in a Latin culture, because I grew up in Southern California and literally Mexican food is spice. Like it's supposed to make you sweat because it's so hot, which makes you feel good. Got to Colombia and it wasn't like that. So I come to Portugal, and in the comments, I'm going to give you a bit to talk without Googling it. What do you think is the most common restaurant in Portugal? Like in the US, I would say, and we'll take McDonald's and Subway and all that kind of stuff out, not the fast food chains, but like what type of food is the most common there? It wasn't what I was expecting. I didn't Google, I didn't do any planning here. I wanted the common experience, a month of just full exposure to what it's like to be here. So in the comments, let me know what kind of food, without Googling, because that'd be cheating. What do you think is the most common type of restaurant here? Duplex Dave, retiring next month after 20 years, federal Leo, nice, which is law enforcement officer, getting the pension now, looking for part-time work until I stabilize the rental portfolio. Roofs, AC, pools are expensive. Yes, they are. Rob, when is the next member stream? It was almost an hour ago. I wanted to do it today before this, but getting the Wi-Fi to work here, which is the reason why I'm in the lobby and not in my room, is because there's two Wi-Fis here, and the one for the rooms, no bueno. So codfish, yes, I would have expected food, Silvio, coastal, right? And I'm going to give it a minute because I know there's some delay to see if there's any other answers coming before I spoil it for everybody. So Rob, the next members only live stream I will probably do tomorrow late at night here, so midday there, probably 11 or 12. So if you can't catch it because everybody's working or whatever, it will be in Futureland, and it will be looking at deals in Washington, because I'm still doing that. I still have my searcher there, even though I'm considering here. Fast food, okay. Actually, and the funny thing, and I said we take McDonald's out of it. If you eat at McDonald's here, it's artisan. Like it's higher end food, because the McDonald's outside of the US are better than the McDonald's inside the US. And yeah, there you go. So you're in Turkey, you know that Portugal is one of the highest meat consumption countries in Europe. So you know how many Starbucks there are in the US? Like you go to a street block and you go into a Starbucks, you buy a drink, which I don't, and then you walk down the street. Before you leave the block, you can go into another Starbucks to either get a refill or throw it away, right? Like there's that many Starbucks. If you see 10 restaurants here in a row, 8 of them are steakhouses. So you figure I would just buy a house here immediately. But we made the mistake, me and my brother, because it's steakhouses. We went into a steakhouse and we missed on the door that it was a Colombian steakhouse. So we ordered the food. And so we were sitting in a Colombian restaurant, not prepared, because when we were in Colombia, we knew that there was no salt and pepper, no seasoning whatsoever. And so if you come here, or if you go anywhere and you see a Colombian steakhouse and you are used to eating in the US, bring your own spice. The meat was great. Like it was good cooked food, but you want salt and pepper and spice. Like it was a steak. And then white rice. Literally rice. Nothing in it at all. No butter, no salt, no pepper, nothing. I'm not traumatized. Congratulations, Duplex Dave. That's awesome. Yeah, once you stabilize the portfolio and you add a pension to it, it's awesome. Chester Williams, excellent reference. I don't know about the second half of the year. Bird quote. Oh, there you go. Jack of all trades. We talked about that on One Rental at a Time, or on Matt's. I forget. We recorded for both of them this morning. A fit bon dia. Is it a bom? Is it an M? Or did that autocorrect you? I thought it was bom. Bom. I'm saying it wrong the whole time. Maybe that's why they giggle. Julie, howdy. Can we get a vacation type video besides grumpy people? What else can you tell us? We went to the Benadryl Caves, took a kayak. First, you take a boat for about an hour. Our hotel is here. The cave is here. You take an Uber here. You take a boat back to the cave to go in with a kayak. Kayaking was a little over a mile. We went into several caves. The waves were awesome. Man, and I recorded a short on this, so it'll come out way later. But one of the reasons why I think almost all of us should be focusing on reaching financial freedom and retiring early, or at least making work optional so you can take a sabbatical or take 6 months or a year or whatever, take mini retirements and travel before the normal retirement age, is I don't think there's anybody in their 70s that was doing that kayak like we were. Not through the waves, a flat lake stuff, sure, but not through the waves where we went. So to get into the caves and get out and walk on the dirt, I mean, you want to do it when you're capable. Be focusing on that and get to retirement, get to that retirement amount, focus on the amount, not the age. But yes, Julia, let's see what else is vacation-y about this. There are a lot of restaurants. We're kind of in the touristy areas for that, though. Beer is super cheap, which makes my brother really happy. He's a beer guy. And if you ever come to Europe, there's something to file away. And this wouldn't be in the course, but this is why I want the course, because it's filtered down to what matters. If we're going to travel to a country like this, it's very warm in Portugal, at least in the Algarve. So beer is like 50, I want to say cents, but whatever half a euro is for a glass, because it's a small glass. And so if you're from the States and you're used to getting like a pint, or you hear people talk about buying a pint of beer or whatever, that's not what happens. You get a small glass and you think, why? Well, first, it's 50 cents, but second, it's because it's cold. You drink it, and by the time it's gone, they bring you another, which is cold. Because if you had a regular sized beer, like we normally do in the States, by the time you got down a third, maybe half, it wouldn't be cold anymore. So it's actually a really cool cultural difference, is that the beers are smaller, they're cheap, but they're cold. T. Adams, love this. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Daniel Pitchler, howdy. Nice to see you. You're the guy going to Mexico. You're coming to check on buying an Airbnb in Mexico tomorrow. Enjoy Portugal and get us an Airbnb there. That's it. You get the one in Mexico. I'll get the one here, and we'll trade off. Because if it's a trade, there isn't an actual exchange of currency, which means it's not taxed. Barter system somehow feels illegal. Matt Motley, howdy. That was all hyperbole, by the way, IRS, if you're listening. I have family in Bocas del Toro. Bocas, what is Bocas? I know of the bull, so what does Bocas mean? However, I love Panama City. I want to see more of the country in my next visit. We'll have to check it out. Home night, since it's a little later in the day. And that's what I thought, Chester, is kind of, you have like mañana for Spanish, see you later, or tomorrow, or whatever. Bon dia seems like it's any time of day. So, T. Adams, you got a fairway guy. He is awesome. I do too. I've referred him to several people in the Washington area. I wish we were not in the save and pay state, still in the first stages, though, holding on to big dreams for the future. Those first few years, they're the roughest. Everything feels like it takes forever. And if you could see the second 5 years or second half of that journey, it makes it sucks. It's slow, and you're being frugal. And believe me, if I had to retire frugal, I would not have pursued financial freedom. It's so worth it. It's so worth it to grow up so poor, so frugal, so, single parent, one income, low income, and watching every expense, to not looking at price tags, getting what you want to eat when you're at a restaurant, not what you can afford, or not what you think is the best price. You look at what is the best deal. What do I feel like eating in this moment? Traveling wherever you want. I took some videos, because even in the touristy areas here, weekends are super packed. Weekdays, I've got the entire beach to myself. Daniel Pitcher, part of our team is Spencer Buck at Fairway. He's a great addition. So Spencer is the gentleman that I have referred several people to. And I haven't gotten a fruit basket from him yet. I have to point that out. Foot ahead to freedom. Howdy. I was doing the final walkthrough before closing. Tenant who works at a prison guard made sure to let me know she has a gun in the house. Tenant knows I will be raising rent. Should I be worried? Well, first, assume everyone you ever encounter has a gun, and then it will matter less if they do. Be polite, be professional. And anytime you go into a tenant's house, I generally don't like to go by myself. So if you're going for a showing, you're going to have the applicants with you. I'm trying to think of, without giving you advice when it comes to safety, because that's not my thing. And being former Marine Corps, former law enforcement, and unless I'm traveling to a country like this, I never go anywhere unarmed. I've gone into tenants' houses, but I'm always armed. And the relationship you have with the tenant. How do you feel? What's your gut feeling on that? Yeah. If you don't feel safe, if something is telling you to even ask the question, maybe you eat the couple of weeks between tenants and you do the showings after the tenant moves out. Maybe. Dale. Howdy. Thank you, Dion. Very helpful. I will definitely call Matt, the mortgage guy, and others. Shout out to Michelle and to you. Thank you. Chris Webb. Howdy. Thanks for your videos. I'm actively working on a 7-unit in Arizona right now. I can't wait to see if it comes up with a deal. Nice. I lived in Arizona for a while. Had my friends buy a duplex that I would have bought. They moved to Florida. They rented it for about 1.5 years. They sold it, made a couple $100,000. It's almost like owning real estate. It's good. Weird. Gone. I just tried purchasing your course. Chase says to have it verified, which I did, so that I don't get double charged. Can only stop for a bit. I'll catch the replay later. Thanks. So to verify, I'm going to take a screenshot of that, because I've got a team in London. I will have them look at that, John, in Futureland. Or Chris in Futureland, sorry. I just tried purchasing a course. Chase says to have it verified, which I did, so that it didn't get double charged. Good. Yeah. So we'll make sure it doesn't double charge. And if it does, you'll get the money back. Don't worry. Duchess. Converting Celsius to Fahrenheit is fairly easy. I probably won't remember this, but let me see. Double and add 30. Not exact, but very close. 25 degrees Celsius is about 80. Okay. Double and add 30. Screenshot that because I'm lazy. I've told you that, though. You should be aware. Thank you, Duchess. I appreciate it. Angel R. Dion, why are you okay? I saw that question. And it's not responsibility, it's possible income and more wealth building. T. Adams, people are mean until you break the seal there. You got to get used to being shot down. It sucks to have the culture shock. I will, like I said, I'm keeping an open mind. Aylin, please email me or message me the phonetic pronunciation of your name. I want to try to get it right. It looks pretty. I don't want to butcher it because, like I said, went to school in America and they don't teach us anything. I'm going to say Aylin. You let me know if it was even close. So I want a house because it's what I'm used to. And I am in small multifamily, so I might consider an apartment. The problem with an apartment is, and there's 2 things I need to research while I'm here. First, if you buy an apartment, which means it's part of a building, which means probably HOA or something like, what if there's foundation issues or the roof needs replaced or there's a boiler issue, or if they even have those here, whatever, there's something communal that needs fixed. How does that happen? Is there a monthly fee like an HOA fee? And the second thing is, if you own a property here as a foreigner and you go to sell, is there something like is it FAFTA tax in the US? So if a foreigner owns a property in the US and you go to sell it, you pay a 15% tax based on the total price, not the gain. So like if you bought a property for 100,000 and then tomorrow you sold it for 100,000, you would pay a $15,000 tax and then 8% to agents, and you'd spend what, $23,000 out of your pocket to sell that house. So I want to find out how that works here. What's the deal? What's the tax situation annually and when you sell as a foreigner? I'm open to an apartment. A house would be better. If I get an apartment, I would want it with like in walking distance, because parking might be harder. Dividend Dave, that was a good question. Alan, thank you. I'd be interested in buying in Japan where ninja loans are illegal. I see what you did there. Do you have a kid, right, Dave? Yeah, that's right. I was going to say, because that would make you a faux pas, making dad jokes. John, Texas, howdy. Would you overshare whether you colored your beard? I color my beard often, sometimes whiter, sometimes darker, sometimes different sections. I haven't done purple or blue yet, but yes, I do overshare. I do color the beard. Yeah, I can't. That's too much of an overshare. I had a conversation with my brother. My brother is, and this is not meant as an insult because this is how I view my entire family. He is such a redneck when it comes to anything like that. Legacy, OPP, howdy. What do you know about renting to traveling nurses, whole house or just a room? They're like 90-day tenants, right? Do you use traveling nurse housing site? So actually, I have a site for you that I'm going to put in here that might help you if I can get to it quickly without ruining the entire flow of the video. This is the website that I would use that my sister gave me, who is a traveling nurse. So it's in the chat. Legacy, I don't do traveling nurses yet. I've considered it. I had one property I wanted to do short-term or mid-term rentals with, but the tenant asked for too much of an increase during the last binder strategy, so it wasn't a vacant unit. So I'm still not doing mid-term or short-term. You'd make more money. The link that I just posted tells you what the per diem is that the nurse or traveling government official is going to get in an area, which changes based on the time of year. An example is in Florida, in the summer, it's really hot. Nobody wants to go there, so they'll pay you more. In the winter, in Florida, it's really nice, so they don't pay you more to go there. In Ohio, it sucks in the winter, so they pay you more to go there. So my sister, as a traveling nurse, will chase the higher per diems. And ironically, right now, she's actually in Washington State. There was a gap of like 27 years where we hadn't seen each other. So she goes to Washington State for a current traveling nurse thing, and I go to Portugal. It's not that I hate her. Yeah. So you can do by the room. You're going to get more by the room with different traveling nurses, but you're going to have different times when they come and go because they're not always on the same schedule. From what I know, they generally do 13 weeks, so however many months that turns out to be. But you can charge more at different times of the year based on the per diem that they're getting. I would list on Furnished Finder. I would probably contact local hospitals and talk about getting on the list or seeing if there's a different way that they do it there. It could be literally a bulletin board or a private Facebook group that's for that hospital area. There's several different ways to find out in your area the demand. I would also go to Furnished Finder like you were a traveling nurse and trying to book a place to find out how to set your rent box. Just like for a long-term tenant, I go to the places a tenant would look: Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Rentometer, or not Rentometer, Zillow, apartments.com, those kind of platforms to see what currently is happening, because that's your competition. And you want to take at least 2 weeks to get a good feel for that, because just seeing rent doesn't tell you what it is. That might be rent that's way too low, gets too much demand. They pull it off and put it back a couple of days later, significantly higher. It could be something that sits for a while and then gets dropped later because they overshot it. So you really don't know what the rents are unless you take a period of time to watch the rents. Alan, I suggest historical house. They are protected and it gains more appreciation. They'll keep building apartment. Historical house who can only afford a deal for renovation. That is a good suggestion. I appreciate that. Daniel, you're out of here. Talk to you soon. Keep living. I'll text you soon. Let me know how Mexico goes. Ring Seeker. Do you know who is howdy, Ring Seeker? Do you know who is a good to follow on YouTube for getting into commercial real estate, storage, warehouse, etc.? That seems to be missing from our community. We've got owner financing, scaling fast, creative financing, Christian and Cody multifamily. We've got investing in a distance millennial life. We've got self-managing a huge portfolio, doing your rehabs, lumberjack landlord. We've got money, Zuber with his 9 millionaires that come in with all the different strategies put together. I don't know that we have somebody that's into commercial real estate, storage, warehouses. Maybe check out Investment Joy. He primarily started out with laundromats, but he's branched out into a bunch of other things. So Investment Joy is probably what I would check out. Yeah, top of my head, that is not one, because for me, the main thing that gets me into real estate is long-term fixed rate debt, which doesn't generally happen in commercial, doesn't generally happen with storage, doesn't generally happen with warehouses. So I haven't spent a lot of time, and that doesn't mean it's not a viable thing. It's just, and Zuber actually has some fixed rate debt on commercial, so it's possible, but generally it's not what I've heard. Laura, Matt Motley, Bocas is a paradise, beautiful beaches, straight snorkeling, scuba. I'm from Chitre. Angel R. My area traveling nurses prefer to rent a house full for themselves. My sister does too. Although I have a friend in Parkland, Washington, who's done traveling nurses with by the room. So he has done that. A fit and fun game. Google Phuket weather at any time between 55 and 75 degrees, 90% of the time. Okay, I'll have to check that out. Silvio. I just joined. Howdy. Bom dia. I lived in Portugal for a year when I was young. I think you need to travel there more. The Algarve area is expensive and touristy. Try more local areas in smaller towns. Yeah, I'm definitely going to smaller towns. Good to spend a month. T. Adams, people are cold to tell you commit. True. Rob, tell your brother water in Brazil is really clear. Yes, I'll have to do that. Chester Williams, Bom, male, Dia, okay, Boa, female, Tarde, okay, cool. So there's male and female. That's a good thing to know. I have nobody's clarified that for me. Something I learned in Thailand is they have the male version of talking and the female version of talking. And at the end of a sentence, a male will say klop and a female will say ka. So if you're a guy and you walk in and you say kakun ka, and they all laugh at you because that's not how a guy says it. Chester, I've been at Brazilian Portuguese for over a year now. Nice. Ring Seeker. I worked for a Portuguese company for a bit and the people generally were very friendly. I have visited Porto and Lisbon and again had a very different experience in terms of friendliness. I have not been to either of those yet because I was looking for good weather. And they can have good weather there, but they actually have winters, which is why I'm leaving Washington to avoid the winter. Sean, howdy. Thanks, Dion. I've heard the Portuguese are not happy with all the foreign investors and digital nomads. So another thing in the fake news climate is before I came here, I heard that there was a bunch of protests going on and riots in the streets. I forget which news channel it was, but it was one of the ones that's, on the fringe. So left or right, doesn't matter. They're so far wrong. There was a person in Lisbon talking to a camera saying, there's too many foreign investors here. So that was the protests and riots in the streets. Ring Seeker. One specific thing is they love little children and go out of their way to accommodate families with children. Nice. Lauren, howdy, good to see you. Chester, the one thing that trips me up is verb, gender, and plurality. Yeah, like I said, it's going to take full immersion. I want to get away from the city, away from the people who speak English, have to talk the language wherever I decide to live. Michelle, I'm a bad Colombian. I cook spicy because I love Mexican food. So we get along. There were some pizza places, Chester. Yeah. Shred. Howdy. From one pirate to another, any suggestions would be to visit ABC Islands. By the way, Aruba, Bonaire, Morocco, Out of the hurricane zone. Cool. That's good to know. Nice. Chester. Uma churrascaria. Alien steak. I only eat with mayonnaise. They offered mayonnaise. I've never heard of that before. There's a Portuguese style of steak, and I don't know if this was it or not. There's a Portuguese style, but I had the Portuguese with brie. Hadn't had that before either. Should try that out. That's good. Chester Williams, try Frogo de Chao. Probably said that wrong. In case it's there. Ground fire, nice. It's a steakhouse that's inspired by cooking. There's a ton of steakhouses here. And the tapas, there's tapas everywhere too, which I've been to places where they say we serve tapas, and what they do is they bring you a very small amount. And when it's gone, they bring you another small amount, and you bring a small amount. But here, when you get tapas in one other place, it's basically the appetizers on a sample platter. So it depends on what restaurant you're at, I guess. T. Adams, you got this. Keep on. Culture shock is real. I cried a lot, but I was 38. I haven't cried yet. I feel like I'm having to try too hard to get people to not be in such a bad mood. And you turn 46 on March 6th. Nice. I turned 53 this year, and then we'll have been retired an entire year, which I think I'm almost used to saying out loud now. David, I'm telling the IRS and you, they're going to seize your multi-properties and give them to me. I'm sure that's exactly how it works. I did the short today, of course, on how do you make a trip to Portugal a complete tax write-off. First, you invest in real estate and you look for real estate, so that makes it a tax write-off. Second, you have a YouTube channel and you use your catchphrase in the video, but not today. T. Adams, travel gives you salt. You will gain so much being out of your comfort zone. True. So the thing I learned that was the most accurate was on the West Coast, people are nice, but mean. And on the East Coast, people are rude, but nice. Anybody know what I mean by that? I can give an example. Let me know if you want an example. But on the West Coast, they're nice, but mean. And on the East Coast, they're rude, but nice. All-nighter hider, what did you just hear? I have no idea. Rob, I use Furnish Finder for travel nurses. Yep, exactly. Josh, howdy. Taxation ripoff. Totally agree. Fatty J's, howdy. I spent the day in Gary. 10 properties later, found 2 for a closer look. Shout out to you and Mike for meeting up with my guy Adam last week. People helping people. Yeah, hopefully it was a good meet. Hopefully we have some good information exchange there. T. Adams, don't cover the beard. Men look good with that salt and pepper. So I go all the way white, all the way darker, and then salt and pepper in the middle. When you don't have any hair that you can't do different things with, might as well play with your face. Bad dating advice. T. Adams, I digress. I give myself highlights. There you go. Dividend Dave, I'm looking for properties to buy and rent out to travel nurses. Lots of major hospitals in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Nice. I do ride a motorcycle. We were thinking about renting them here. Had conflicting information. If you have a United States license, you could drive here. You need to get an international license, so I have to verify all of that. I don't like Harleys. I have a shirt that says, I'm sorry, I'm fat, but not fat enough to ride a Harley, which all my friends who have Harleys just love. More of a Honda guy. I have an NT700, gave it to my brother, Dale, who lives in California, because I travel too much to actually keep one in Washington. But Lumberjack Landlord, howdy. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Make sure you check out Dion's new course. I went through it. It's absolutely awesome. So many nuggets. I have 4 weeks of calls to kick off. It's awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that, man. You're my hero. And when you do something like make a course that you definitely want to go to other investors and go, here's what I'm putting together. Here's my thought process. Some outside eyes looking at your thing are very important. So I appreciate that, Matt. You were a big help. Dale, thank you. I will enjoy Portugal. See you next week. and hopefully in some videos between now and then too. Monica, howdy. What are you doing that you're looking younger? I guess your retirement is helping you. The color and the beard. And retirement looks good on everybody. Imagine if you just sleep when you feel like it. Like it might be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You're like, oh, I'm going to sleep until tomorrow, or until 6. And then you're up until 6. And you're just more rested all the time. And I think the last time I was tired. No. Josh, howdy. Tried the binder on my tenant. They didn't want to name a price. So I think we talked about this in the previous one, or you were on Matt's and he gave you an answer that I actually messaged him and said was a good answer. I don't think they're happy with my still under market price. I tried to give them a chance to set their rent. So Josh, if you were the one on Matt's, that's a good question. And Matt had a great answer. It's an ongoing conversation, and your tenants are kind of smart because they knew that whoever talks first loses. That's why they didn't want to say a number. So you present the binder and you say, what do you think is fair? So this is a version of this is going to be added to the binder course. Okay, so this is the Cliff Notes, butchered, unscripted, unplanned version of what's going to be taught extra in the binder course, which is free. diontalk.com/binder. You don't have to pay for that, even though I'm going to add content to it. David and Dave and I were talking, and he had a tenant who we were talking, what if the tenant offers too little? Like if they're at 1,000 and rents are 1,500, and so you're thinking 13 or 1,350 or 1,400, and they're at 1,000, and the tenant says 1,050, right? So if you're talking to them, and I would draw this on a whiteboard to demonstrate for the video, or on a piece of paper, or have a graphic from Canva or something. But the tenant is thinking numbers, and what we need to do is visualize those numbers for the tenant. So you can do this with your hands. You can do this on a piece of paper. You can actually draw on a piece of paper, but with my hands, because I'm not going to use paper right now. Hold your hand up and say, okay, so this is where your rent is now. This is where area average rents are. So you're visually showing the gap between them. And then you use the hand motion to delineate where they're offering at. So if the tenant offers 1,050, you can say, I could see how you would think that's fair for you, but do you see how far you are from the area average? And you see that physical difference of the hand moving and that big gap that they see from those to here? It's an easier way to get the tenants to think, oh, well, what's more in the middle? 1350, right? Something like that compared to what they offer. So if somebody offers too low, there is a way to get them to understand visually why that sounds fair to them, but not fair to you. If the tenant is unwilling to submit an offer, I could say, okay, so if the rents are 1,000, I'm showing you area averages that are 1,500, verbalize it. As an investor, the best thing for me would be if you moved out, right? I don't want you to have to move, and I don't want to have to fix this place up. But if you moved out, I would fix it up and I would get at least 1,500, right? So that's the best thing for me. Say that out loud to the tenant, right? First person to speak is going to lose. So you want to be as clear as possible. Something my mom always said, when you don't have nothing nice to say, speak clearly. So you can tell them, you're at 1,000, 1,500 is what I was going to get if you moved out. So if you moved out, I'm going to make an extra $500 a month. I don't want to make you move. I can't handle a small increase because property taxes and insurance and cost of repairs and maintenance and handyman has gone up so much. But if we were to settle on 13 or 1,350, I think I could handle that. They're going to say 1,300 if you say 13 or 1,350, right? They're not going to pick the higher end of what you named. So make sure the first thing you name that's the lowest is as low as you can go. And then it's a conversation. If they'll agree to that, great. If they won't, because then you're not just coming in and going, look, I'm going to raise your rent $100. You're a jerk. You're explaining, here's what I could get if you left. Here's where I would like it. So do the math on where you're at, whether it was 1,500 to 2,000 or 800 to 1,300, whatever it is, where they're at, where it would be if they moved, what you think is fair. You can actually say it, but you want to explain all of that out loud. Don't sit back and hope, I think they assumed what I was talking about. K3, howdy. Just got here. I'll have to watch from the beginning later. Did you go over the course and how we'd be able to access it? I did. And Chester put in a link, but if you go to that link, it should take you right to the course. For 1 month, there is $100 discount for the first week, starting today for a week. Anybody who buys the course, I'm going to draw 5 names out of that list, and 5 of those people are going to get a 1-hour one-on-one with me. And for the month of the $100 discount, also during that month, there's going to be a weekly, at least an hour Zoom call where we go in and we go into each of our situations, things that you might not want to share on YouTube publicly, but in a group of people in a community that have got skin in the game, that are trying to do this and help each other. We can all share on Zoom together. It'll happen for at least a month. It'll probably go on after that too. I don't know that it'll happen every week after that, but for the first month, it'll definitely be every week. So that's how you can access the course. And K3, I do want to be clear, if you missed in the beginning, anytime I bring up the course, because I don't want to be somebody who's pitching something, everything that's in my course is on this YouTube channel, right? There's 6,000 or 7,000 hours of content with the 2 or 3 hour live streams and all the videos and everything. There's all this content that you can watch to do everything that's in the course. But in the course, it's filtered down to the short, chronological, actionable steps that you can take, so that if you have to go do something, you can actually look it up. And when you make a video for YouTube, so here's behind the scenes things on how you try to grow a YouTube channel, because I want to get this information to everybody, right? But there is an algorithm or a psychology to how this works. You make a video, and the first thing is you have to make a thumbnail. It has to be kind of clickable. It has to have a little bit of mystery. You don't want to use clickbait. Like, you don't want to say, look at the housing crash of 2023, and then talk for 20 minutes about how there's no housing crash. You want to say, crash or correction, like leaves a mystery, and then I go, yeah, this is what my thoughts are, right? So you don't want to be clickbaity. So you want them to click on it. Then you want the title to be searchable, right? So you're thinking through the video. When you start the video, since somebody might click on it for the brand new very first time, you have to kind of explain who you are, why they might want to listen to you, what your conversion story is, from worker B with debt to somebody who never has to work again, financially free, and here's how I did it, right? All that explaining. Cover the concept, and it's sometimes at the beginning of the video you give a hook like, hey, I'm going to cover 5 things, and at the end there's going to be a bonus, right? So you're trying to get people to watch the video, because the longer you watch a video, the more YouTube recommends the video to other people. So like, there's all that going on to make a YouTube video. So even if in all of that content you just want to, how do I screen tenants, and you go to the tenant screening 101 video, it's like 10 minutes for 3 or 4 minutes of actually how you screen a tenant, right? The course is none of that. It's in the systems section. How do you screen tenants? How do you talk to tenants? Short video, just deadpan. This is exactly how you do it. Kind of like if I ever write a book, right? I figured being retired, you'd have enough time to write a book, but there's not enough time to do anything when you're retired. So I don't know how people ever have time to work. But the book is going to be an instruction manual, not a story. Like, there'll be a short chapter on who I am, what I did, why you might want to read this, how you can find my information. But it's literally going to be like a what did we used to have, like an IKEA book on how to put together your real estate portfolio and financial freedom, right? So that's my idea for the course, is it's got the modules on exactly how to do this without any of the fluff, without any clickbait, without any clickable title or anything like that. It's the information that you need, which is all here on YouTube, but in these long live streams and on my videos, and having to meet the way the YouTube thing works. So thank you, K3, for joining us, and thank you for the question. Nicholas, howdy. Zuber says, get to 4 rentals. Do you agree? Also, would you ever pay more down to cash flow more if nearing retirement? So 2 questions. Make sure I get to both of them. The first one, Zuber says, get to 4 rentals. Do you agree? Here's why Zuber says get to 4 rentals. It's achievable, right? If Zuber said he has 187 rentals and Matt said I have 137, probably changed since the last time, rentals, you need to get there to be financially free. And I said, well, once I had 16, I was free. The 100 and some things are big. 16 is a little more achievable, right? So I still use my numbers. I talk my cash flow. I talk my expenses. I talk everything. it's cool, and it's cool that I'm small enough to be able to do that, because if the larger portfolio shared their numbers, it seems so unachievable, you can't do it. So Zuber says get to 4, because we can count to 4. We can figure, okay, so that's buying one. So if we look at a 10-year thing, that's buying one more than, every 2 years, like longer than every 2 years between each purchase. That's probably doable. So the idea is, once you get to 4, if you never did anything else and you had 4 and you had appreciation, principal pay down, when you do hit retirement and you have social security, maybe your retirement account, and those 4 rentals, your retirement's going to be better than it would have been, even if you just sold and took the cash to help you live, right? But when you get to 4 and you learn your systems, and you realize that somebody with 16 rental units can self-manage my rental properties, and it takes 2 hours a month to manage my properties, maybe you add more, right? So that's the why we say to 4. It's not get to 4 and you're done. Zuber wants you to get at least to 4, because now if you stop, your retirement's going to be better. But now that you are at 4, why not 10? Why not 187 or whatever he's at now, right? But if we start with that, it's how do you eat an elephant? You don't. That's gross. But if you're eating something big, you do it one bite at a time. So it's an overshare. Me and my brother were walking through Dom Pedro Marina, and there was like a farmer's market going on because it was Easter weekend. And we're walking through and we see this, kind of understand the language. Carne de gato. And then some pictures of cats. Carne means meat. And we see like a chicken's foot and some beef jerky looking stuff. And this is how uncultured we are. Rednecks. Holy crap, they eat cats here. Which is not what they do. This was like a pet festival, but we hadn't caught on to that yet. And this first stand was pet food for cats. The next one was pet toys for cats. But for a nanosecond, we were like, they eat cat. Well, when in Rome, try anything, right? So we were no, they don't eat cat that I know of. Yeah, so anyway, overshare, sorry. Pichana steak, get that. I will definitely try that. T. Adams, I lived in Sacramento and Boston. You are 100% correct on meanest and nicest. Yes. Aylin, minimum wage is $9.65 in a month in Portugal. Do you think this will be poverty level according to your couple of day experience? And what is that? So $9.75 per month. So if I did 2,080 divided by 12, so 173 hours in a month. And you said, where did it go? And then so 965 divided $5.58 an hour. Yeah, that would be poverty level. The minimum wage in the United States was $7.25 the last time I looked. It might have gone up to like 12 or something now, but that is significantly less. So by my quick, probably wrong math, yeah, that's if not borderline, definitely in the poverty area. Wow. Monica, howdy. After your trip to Gary, are you investing there? I am open-minded. I took the trip there. I'm making some videos soon. I've got some footage that I want to use for that. Actually, I think I downloaded onto this computer and I put it in, what video was it? Choosing a market, in the course, the choosing a market thing. I talked about Gary. So if you're looking at Gary, one of the reasons why you want to have trusted boots on the ground, so this is literally out of the video that was put in the course. In Gary, we drove down one street. So there's a clip of a street where there's like 10 houses and 8 of them are burned down or falling down or vacant, and 2 are lived in. One street over, there's 10 houses. 8 of them are like really nice and 2 are empty. So I would want to know exactly what street to be investing in with those trusted boots on the ground to tell you where you want to invest. You don't want to own one house on a street where 8 of them are messed up. You want to own a house where there's 1 or 2 that are vacant and you're going to improve one of them. So I looked at Gary, the numbers make sense. The ROI is there. The team in place is key. So you want to make sure you develop those relationships. It's either find somebody like Millennial Mike or Matsky that you can piggyback on their systems, or you know somebody there, or you're willing to travel there and build a relationship with somebody. So I'm in Portugal hunting for a possible winter home and maybe Airbnb, depending on the regulations here. Maybe it's just sitting vacant if they won't let me do that when I'm not here, so that I can get out of Washington in the winter. And when I go back, I still have a search set up in Washington. If the next small multifamily pops up and it's the best use of my capital from lumberjack landlord, my buck, best use of capital, it'll go there. But I'm going to start setting up searches in Gary as well, and maybe start investing there. So it literally comes down to the 2 things that tell you if you should invest, right? It's never the market, it's never the rates, it's never what you expect to happen in the market in 6 months. It is, 1, are you ready? I'm ready. There's nothing big going on in my life. I'm not doing something stupid like dating or changing jobs or retiring, which I did last year. I'm not having a baby, even though I look like it. And so I'm ready, and I have the down payment or the money for a purchase or cash or whatever. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, did I find the right deal? So if I have a search set up in Portugal and Washington and Gary, Indiana, which deal pops up first? That's where the money goes. So yeah, I didn't see anything in Gary that told me not to invest there. I think with remote working being more of an option, and being 45 minutes from Chicago, and a lot of BRRRR projects going on there, a lot of rehabs happening, that yeah, there is some problems in that city. And hopefully this is going to be the weirdest thing you probably ever hear an investor say, but I heard Millennial Mike say this too. Hopefully they vote in a tax increase on properties so that the municipality gets funding to actually do some things productive with the city. T. Adams, thank you, Lumberjack. Yes, I appreciate that too. Jordan, howdy. You're awesome. Can't wait to watch the replay in the morning while I pick up garbage. Awesome. That was a job I wanted for a long time as a truck driver. Most people don't realize what a good job that can actually be. Rob, missed the answer. When is the next member stream? Sorry, you missed it. You're still here, and I didn't see it soon enough. It was going to be tonight, so I think it's going to be for me tomorrow evening. So somewhere around 11 to 2 in the afternoon tomorrow. I will set that a couple hours before I do it tomorrow. Right? No wonder wine is so cheap. Angel, thank you. Basilio, howdy. Just curious, now that you are retired, what are your monthly expenses, and are you living in a single family home? I am not living in a single family home. I'm still house hacking my fourplex, a unit in my fourplex. I've considered buying a single family home, as long as I'd probably just buy cash at this point. But if I bought it with a mortgage, the payment would have to be what I could rent out my unit for or less. I'm in Portugal looking at buying a single family home to get out of Washington in the winter. My monthly expenses, so the cash flow from my real estate is somewhere between it's a little over 17,000 a month, but then I've got some weird side hustle things going on. YouTube pays me a little bit. A couple affiliate things like Amazon pays me a little bit. So there's a little money coming in like that. But I'm saving somewhere between, I want to say 10 to 15, but it's like $12,000 to $16,000 a month that I'm saving when I'm not doing something like booking the cruise in September or flying over here to Portugal and staying in the places that I'm at. So this month over here, I will probably only save like 10,000 this month. So I'll probably spend $7,000 this month. It's actually hard to figure out how to spend money. And that's the cash flow after principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. Like I said, it's cool and it sucks, but my portfolio is still small enough where I can share all my numbers and they're still achievable. Dividend Dave. Did that line thing graph with my tenants and it worked amazingly well. If you're nervous, I was. Use that and you're guaranteed gold. Dion, thank you. I owe you $10 super chat. Nice. Take that $10 and Put it towards the next down payment on your next property. The frugal life hacker. Howdy. You will love the Philippines. Make sure to check Palawan. Nice. I have not heard of Palawan before. Should be easy for me to remember. Being a Star Wars nerd. Isa, howdy. You bought the course. Thank you. That means you are in the drawing for the potential, one of the first five. The first week, 5 people will win a 1-hour one-on-one. So I look forward to you digging in too. Thank you. Chester, and thank you too. Josh, howdy, thank you. I like Matt's answer too. I think my tenant is hoping I'll be soft, but I'm done with low rents. I explained to them similar to how you just did, waiting to see if they pay or move. There you go. Cool. Yeah, exactly. So as long as you can kind of help them visualize it, I think it's great. I'll make sure. I think I missed a couple of super chats here. So Lumberjacks, Josh, appreciate the feedback from you and Lumberjack. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully it helps, and let me know how it goes. Pilavi, howdy. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Dion. Everyone for all the Qs and the As, but got to go as I'm past my daily evening prayers. Nice. Thank you again, Dion. Have a great evening. Great evening to you too. One time we're at 1:36. We're at 1:36. I've got plenty of time left. I'm probably going to be around a 2-hour live stream. So if you have any questions, try to get them in now. We got what, 24 minutes left. I'm not really on a set time schedule because bars close at sunup. Okay, all right, I'm excited about part of this place. Chester went into listen only mode until I heard my name. Nice. Thank you. I'm always in listen only mode. I have, do I have them with me? No. I always get the jawbone earbud so it doesn't go in your ear, but I can hear the room and still listen. I'm always listening. I recommend most people get YouTube Premium, no commercials ever, and you can close the app and just listen. Josh, thank you. Bill O'Connell, howdy. Thanks for sharing your experience. Awesome. Chester, paying for the condensed version is a huge time saver, and we all know about the value of time. And me too. Yeah. Your time is everything. You're not getting any more. And so one thing I really like to focus on with people is there are some people who want to live longer, right? They eat healthier, they exercise, they're in the gym 3-4 hours a day. And then if they got the lifestyle to support that, great. But you're adding life when you're 80s or 90s, when everything's going to hurt no matter what you do. I want to teach people how to live more instead of longer. I'm not saying don't eat right, don't exercise. I'm saying you can live more. And so I'm sorry if you've heard me say this before, but I want to say it again really quick, and I'll try to do it in less than a minute. The average person works 8 to 10 hours a day, sleeps 8 hours a day, commutes 30 minutes each way, so an hour a day. So on average, the average human has somewhere around 5 hours a day that's theirs. 5 hours. If you're not doing laundry, cooking dinner, doing whatever, but 5 hours that's yours. Most people binge YouTube, Netflix, not YouTube. Most people binge Netflix. Smart people are on YouTube, figuring out how to take that 5 hours and do what I did. Retire early. So take age out. Don't think how old, think how much. Get your freedom number, reach that freedom number, and then retire so that you don't have 5 hours a day that are yours. On average, if you take out sleep, working out, laundry, whatever, I have about 15 hours a day that are mine to do whatever I want. So in the next 12 months, in the next year, I will live 3 times more than a person who has to work. So we all have to work for a while, whether it's entrepreneur or in W-2. I'm a better W-2. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm an investor. So we work for a while, but we have to take that money that we earn and put it to work. Once you put the money to work and you get your time back, now you can live more. Is that less than a minute? I don't know. Esther, please give a thumbs up for our friend Dion. Thank you. Each one is appreciated. Tom, are we still live? We are still live. Yes. Dividend Dave, I still want to write your biography. I'll tell you what, Dave, I will let you write my obituary in advance. Like, don't wait. I want to see it. Nicholas Massey. Hey Dion, would you ever put more down payment? That was the question. The second part. Thank you. Would you ever? Okay, so there's two questions here. Let me start with the first one. Would you ever put more down payment to cash flow near retirement? I've considered purchasing all cash to buy cash flow instead of better yield. It is the dumbest thing to do. It's the worst thing to do with your money. But closer to retirement, remember, don't compare year 12 to year 1. In growth phase, you should never put down more money for better cash flow. You should be financing as much as you can while keeping a 70% loan to value or less so that you have a buffer, right? So you don't want to over leverage. So it came out wrong, but you want to lever. You don't want to put down more just to be cash flowing better. But once you're past financial freedom, so you've hit the 4x rule. If it takes you on average, I would say $4,000 a month to be my expense, which is most months less than that, unless I'm traveling. I hit $16,000 a month and beyond, then I was able to retire. At that point, once you're past it, I would be less opposed to buying for cash flow. But in growth phase, I would always say that's a mistake. I paid off a mortgage, and that was one of the biggest mistakes in my journey, was paying off that mortgage. I did it at the time because you were allowed to have 4 in your name. I wasn't educated on DSCR, asset-based or seller financing. So I just looked at, how many loans can I have in my name? I got to 4, paid 1 off. Then I was going to go to 4 again. And then they lifted the limit to 10, which wouldn't surprise me with lending restrictions getting tighter, that they drop down to a certain number in your name and you might not be able to go farther. So then you'll need to research DSCR, asset-based or seller financing. There might be more options, but those are the 3 that come to mind. There's a second question that I'm remembering at this time. Also, would you ever cash out refi properties to put on current rentals to cash flow and retire? Ever cash out refi properties to put on current rentals to cash? So I'm thinking you're saying sell properties to pay off debt or take out. So if you take out equity, you're increasing the debt, which would reduce your cash flow. But if you paid off debt, maybe. I have thought at 16 rentals, if I sold one of my properties, I could probably pay off 1 or 2 of the mortgages and increase my cash flow, reduce the number of assets that I have to maintain, tenants I have to deal with, and increase my cash flow. It is the worst use of your capital, so I haven't done it. So I've considered it and so far dismissed it every time. Dividend Dave, Dion's ready to buy Gary, ready to buy in Gary. Howdy, Richard. Hi-hoo party, howdy. If you were to start over in today's market with real estate investing, do you think what you achieved could be achieved in 8 to 10 years? If I started over now without the $89,000 in debt, it would happen faster. Owner-occupied lending is probably one of the strongest things. We just had, we have the government that's trying to push for first-time buyers. House hacking, I would do it faster. I would do it sooner. Absolutely. I think 10 years right now, while finding the deal is a challenge, it's not impossible. Living where you want to live is often the problem. Housing is not unaffordable. I was looking at properties in Gary that consistently were getting, I want to say, twice the ROI that I was getting in Washington. Right now, today, all of the deals there are available. Some turnkey, some BRRRR. So it's where you're investing. So me personally, if I was starting over today's market, I would find a place where the numbers made the most sense. And for me, that's generally not going all the way to Gary, Indiana. It's taking the high cost of living area that you kind of want to be around, drawing a circle around it and going out and out until you find an equilibrium in price and rents, which might be the next state or 3 states over. It might be out of LA County up into Kern County, right? It might just be the part that makes sense. I would house hack, I would rinse and repeat. I would do everything I did. Literally, what's in my course? The first step is learning how to save, and that doesn't mean spending less. It's how do you increase your income? Starting over right now, it would be how much overtime can I work? Do I need to shift companies to get a promotion to make better? What kind of side hustle can I develop? What can I do that can create money that I can take and put to work? I absolutely think it was the starting and the bad debt that made it take 10 years for me. I say 10 years, kind of the way Zuber says 4 properties. 10 years is achievable. If I said you can reach financial freedom in 6 years or less, that'd be tight for probably 90% of the people, right? But there are some people who could do it. There are people who have done it. But if I say 10 years, and that's buying in the beginning, a property every 2 years or so. And then after the halfway point, maybe buying one every year, you have 6 or 7 properties in 10 years, cash flowing like mine do, because you're not doing what I'm doing. I'm not doing cash out refinances, taking out HELOCs or selling to 1031. I'm literally saving a down payment, buying a property, using the binder strategy, keeping the property long-term, and watching that 10% ROI, which could have been an 8 in the beginning, because by year 2 or 3, it's over 20% ROI, which is return on investment or cash on cash return or yield, all pretty much meaning the same thing in this context. It's a great question. It's a fair question. If somebody says you could do it in 2 years, possible, very rare. And you want to go to the most likely to have success instead of the fastest. Aylin, did you see homeless, beggar, or refugees around? I see no homeless camps. I come not too far from Seattle, where there are literally tent cities that cover acres. So I haven't seen any of that here. Some of the people have told me that there are people who live in tents in Portugal, but they're generally the gypsies, which is a term my family hates for some reason, because my family is a bunch of travelers. They don't live in tents. They're worse than that. And if they watch this, I am talking about you, my family, you, the one watching this right now. I saw 2 what we call panhandlers, people asking for handouts. They were in kind of dark areas off to the side, so that I believe there's something that stops them from doing it where either the police or public see them. So it does happen. It was rare. And so I've been here, what, a week, maybe? And I've seen 2. So not too many. Chester, yes, YouTube Premium is absolutely worth its weight in electronic gold. One of the strongest things for reaching financial freedom is eliminating advertisements from your life. It's been over a decade since I've watched a commercial. Even the Super Bowl stuff, because I don't watch the sports ball, that helps. But I don't even watch like the clips on YouTube, because somebody with a master's degree in psychology and advertising with decades of experience is making the tone, the sound, the timing of the noise, the lighting in that thing make you want to buy something that you might have never seen before in your life, but you know you can't live without. That ends up being expensive. So Hulu, premium, no commercials. I entertain myself with ridiculously stupid shows. I watched all the way through Game of Thrones, which has no financial literacy, no, maybe some good life lessons in there, but don't watch things with commercials. That's really helped me reach financial freedom. Mrs. Furley, excellent question to iHeart Hanley. I was wondering this myself about people who are I want to be. Thank you. Awesome. Fatty J's, any experience using conventional loan to purchase a home, then quit claim into an LLC? Most investors I know just roll them into an LLC and don't worry about the bank calling the loan due. First, I don't ever want to own a property in an LLC. It's the dumbest thing you could do. First, makes you more likely to get sued. Second, if you live in a place like California that has rent control and you own a single family house, it is not rent controlled. Put it in an LLC, now it's rent controlled. So no, I haven't done that, but there is a way to make it make sense where if you buy a primary house to live in and your standard deduction doesn't help you with your wages, you can, and you have so much rental income coming in and you're a real estate professional, so you can use the write-offs, you can put the property in an LLC and rent it from yourself so that it now becomes an investment property, and like you can go jump through all these hoops to make a couple of pennies, maybe, if you don't get caught and you don't trigger the due on sale clause. There are times it makes sense to have an LLC. If you have partners, you want to protect yourself from other people's mistakes. If you need to use hard money and the lenders require it, sure. But to jump through all the hoops to play the tax game, no. And all of the negative things, lending gets more expensive. You can trigger the due on sale clause. If you want to refinance, you have to pull it out into your name to do that. If you want a HELOC, you have to pull it out of your name to do that. Or you have to pay commercial rates, basically, like all of the negatives that come from having an LLC, like being more likely to be sued because companies have deeper pockets than a person does. I haven't done that. I have heard of investors doing that, but I've never talked with an investor, seen their portfolio and seen it work. But I've in the Facebook world seen a lot of investors who probably don't even own a real estate, own any real estate, claim that that's what they've done. So know the source on where you get it from. So hopefully that didn't seem like an attack. It's just the LLC thing. Where I always get concerned is if you have 5 to 10 rental properties and you have a lot of cash flow coming in and you want to sleep better at night because you have an LLC for whatever reason, it registers with your brain, go for it. Waste the money. Make the attorney and CPA who's going to tell you that you need an LLC happy because they get to charge you for setting it up, charge you for maintaining it, charge you for filing taxes on it. Their business is based on you doing that. Because it's not going to stop you from investing. If you have 5 or 10 and you put it in an LLC, you're going to have a couple of barriers and it's going to be a little harder to buy the next rental, but you're going to. My concern is that new investor who's learning, who's starting, who needs to know, like, how do I actually do this? Like the purpose of somebody like me making a course. Hearing you need an LLC for asset protection, which it doesn't offer any whatsoever unless you have partners. In the 2 counties I invest, they're not pierced. Don't pierce the veil. They ignore them. They take the 1996 IRS precedents of calling them disregarded entities and say they don't exist. So no asset protection. And then no tax benefits because of the 1996 IRS precedents, disregarded entities. So literally no benefit except if you can rent from yourself, you turn your primary into a rental and then you can do depreciation. Doesn't change the write-off, it lets you do depreciation. Which do you really want to? Because if you own it and you live in it, you get the IRS 121 rule. And if you sell it, you get to realize up to $250,000 in gains or $500,000 if you're married and not pay any tax. So different ways of playing the tax game there with the LLCs. Hopefully that was clear without sounding too ranty. Literally Google LLC rant Dion talk and you'll see why it sounds like a rant. Dividend Dave, here lies Dion. He's so lazy. Are we sure he's dead? I like that. It's good stuff. Chester, thank you to Lumberjack. Short and sweet. I like that. Here lies Dion. His heart is beating, but not today. Thanks, Chester. We need somebody to do a cannonball salute. Dion will get pirate funeral. Yes, exactly. Nicholas, howdy again. Dion, if you moved to a different one of your current rentals, say an old house hack, would you need to pay tax recapture now that it's back to a primary? I'm not sure I understand the question. If I move, so I don't have to pay any taxes where I live. You pay it if you sell. So like right now I live in one unit of a 4-plex. So I'm able to take advantage of 75% of the depreciation every year because 25% is my primary. So I would have to Google how, because I don't plan on selling ever. So I don't have this memorized. So verify everything that I'm about to say in the next 15 seconds. Look up how the IRS 121 rule works so that if you can avoid capital gains on up to 250,000, if I'm in a 4-plex, logic would dictate, which the government doesn't use logic, that I would get 25% of that on this 4-plex because I'm occupying 1/4 of it. Whenever it comes to taxes, the answer is always go to a CPA. I don't listen to CPAs on LLC advice, but I do listen to them on tax advice. And especially when it's coming to something like where you're going to live. And if you're going to sell something, you might move to one rental or another to live there for a couple of years. That's called tax strategy. So you want to talk to a CPA and say, here's what I'm thinking of doing, and here's the goal I want to achieve. Let them tell you if there's a better way to achieve it, or if that's not going to do what you want it to, so you don't waste time. Because I know the 121 rule, you have to live in the property for at least 2 out of the last 5 years for that to take effect. Again, a bunch of things that the CPA is paid to know. And like Matt, the Lumberjack Landlord, talks about, you want to use an EA, an enrolled agent, so that they're current on tax. Hope that helps. Thank you for answering your questions. I'm so happy to. Terrence, howdy. How did you pay off your 89K in debt while building your portfolio? So that's actually a part of the course that's being added is whether to invest or pay off debt. Here's the order of operations on debt when it came to me. Found out about the $89,000 in bad debt. It was actually $313,000 in bad debt in my name that I didn't know existed. So the first tip is I was contacting the lenders to find out who they were and how much I actually owed them and how I was going to pay them, because I didn't know this debt existed until the divorce. It was like out of nowhere. And one of the lenders said, your ex filed bankruptcy, which I know she did because that made our debt my debt. And I was going to go back to law enforcement. So I couldn't do bankruptcy because that could be a curricular for law enforcement. He asked me, the lender, the debtor, whoever we owed the money to, said, are you considering bankruptcy as well? And before I said, well, no, I want to work in law enforcement again, I'm not going to file bankruptcy, before I could even say anything, he goes, because if you're considering bankruptcy, we'll take 20% of what you owe us. And so I thought back and I said, well, now I'm considering bankruptcy. So I contacted every single one of the lenders and I said, I'm thinking about doing a bankruptcy. What would you take? And all but 3 of those lenders, the Discover Card, a dentist, and an apartment we were renting that I did not know about, which is great to think about, wouldn't budge. I owed them whatever I owed them. But all of the other lenders, every single card and loan that she had, took 20 or 25% of the value. So if you find out you're in a bunch of debt, contact them, say you're considering, because we've considered everything. We're considering it right now because you're thinking about it, bankruptcy. What would they take? And if they say 20 or 25%, you sign a commitment letter saying that's what you owe. So my $313,000 became 89. So that's the first thing. So whatever your debt is, you might be able to get it reduced to that. Second, I took my income, which the first thing for saving is figuring out how to increase your income, right? So I was working a lot of overtime. I was only making $17 an hour, but I worked a lot of overtime. And then I had the side hustle where I played World of Warcraft and I sold things online. So I had this income, whatever I could save, every penny that I could save, I cut in half. Half went to saving for the first house hack. And the other half, I paid the minimum payments on all the debt, and any debt that was above 6% or had an adjustable rate mortgage, I focused and paid off first. So over the first couple of years, I saved, took 2 years to save to get to that point where I had $28,000 with all the overtime and the side hustle to have that sitting there to do the house hack. And I saved money to pay off the high interest or adjustable rate debt and minimums on the other debt. Once I house hacked, I increased it and I did the same thing. It's just half would go to that. And at some point I got to where everything above 6% or adjustable rate was taken care of, and I had probably $30,000 or $40,000 in debt left after that. That once the income snowball kicked in around that year 6, I just started funneling it all that, and I paid off one mortgage and all of that debt in between years 6 and 7 and a half, probably 7.5 to get that paid off. Then it was year 8 that I went for the fourplex. The income snowball makes it faster and easier to pay off debt later, and it's no benefit to pay off low interest fixed rate debt. Or debt that you can get to a low interest rate. Focus on the high stuff and focus on anything that can adjust. That's how I did it. And it didn't happen overnight. It took half a decade and a little more to get out of the bad debt. But you can possibly get it reduced and then focus on those two. That was a great question, Terrence. Thank you. Nicholas, Lannisters always pay their debts. Game of Thrones deals with finances. It does. There was some other, the Bank of Bravos had some good ones. Lannisters always pay their debts. Somebody else said Lannisters aren't the only ones who pay their debts. I forget who that was though. Kenzie Cashflow. Howdy, great name. Starting from the beginning right now, the people in Portugal sound like some parts of California. Yes, so the idea was if you're on the West Coast, people are nice but mean, and on the East Coast, people are rude but nice. And the example is, let's say you have a flat tire. The person from California would say, I'm so sorry that happened to you. That sucks to have a flat tire. They're nice. And then you change your own tire. The East Coast person would talk really fast, probably use some cuss words, and say, you're an idiot. You don't have a spare. Why you got a flat? Why are you driving here? Why didn't you get all the way off the road? And then they will change your tire for you. So nice but mean, rude but nice. Nicholas, I have 3 properties in SoCal with lots of equity but not great cash flow. Don't want to buy out of state because I'm lazy. Wondering best way to create more cash flow on future properties. One, right. Have you used the binder strategy? Because if you're in SoCal, if you're in LA County, moratorium's going on, the world's upside down. I'm not sure, but my brother's in Kern County out in Rosemont. So binder strategy can work. Properties are in his own name because every investor that I know, properties are in their own name. That's doing residential. There are some people who use several LLCs if you're doing commercial because the lending often requires it. and they have partners, so division of assets is better. Best way to increase cash flow with those, you have a lot of equity. If you're looking for cash flow, if you don't have a lot of cash flow, pulling equity out, which means the ability to create debt on an existing asset, is probably not the best bet, because you're going to make them lose money every month. Possibility of a sale for a 1031 exchange might look more attractive. What can you do to increase the rents there? Are there storage sheds? How many rooms are there per each one? Are there any dens or family rooms that you can convert into a bedroom with minimal things like adding a wall and a closet and a door or something like that? 1031ing is often the best way to turn it into more cash flow, finding a market that works better. And if you're in California, that doesn't mean going out of state. It might mean going a bit further away from where you are, though, to getting to that place where the prices and rents start to make sense. Aylin, PACE more rate advises than LLC. A lot of people advise LLCs. PACE does alligator lending, so you're going to want a lot of it's a lot of outside of real estate stuff going on there. And a lot of people recommend LLCs. A lot of people who've never owned a rental recommend an LLC. Until you do your research and you realize that it usually stops a new investor in their tracks. You can't house hack, you can't own or occupy. Lending is harder, it costs more, insurance costs more. It can make you affected by rent control in areas where it doesn't affect somebody who's got rentals in their own name. Like just this huge list of all these things that suck. No asset protection, no tax benefits. And so as soon as somebody says, oh, you want an LLC for the tax benefits, you just stop listening to that person because they don't know what they're talking about. Richard, but PACE is not advising it for tax benefits. He's doing it because the lending structure that he uses and the creative financing usually goes through LLCs. Hard money lenders will often require an LLC. There's absolutely a reason and times where it makes sense to have an LLC. It's just not for the reason most people are often getting it for. Richard, I wish you were in my last REI meetup. A LLC pusher said a person should have an LLC no matter what. When it's very common. People drink the Kool-Aid and think it's the only way to go. But I know investors, I know 2 investors who I make videos with every week that have over 100 units each and no LLCs. I have one that won't talk about it because he won't give legal advice. But I'm telling you, it's my experience. There's no benefit. There's added costs. There's added risk. There's added hoops to jump through. Unless you have partners, unless you want to use hard money, unless you want to have one of the reasons why an LLC actually makes sense. And I just realized, wow, the lighting in here is really bad. Patty J, is use an LLC to do a partnership only? Absolutely. Trust is not an issue. We just, no, you want it to separate you from someone else's mistakes. They have a problem in their life that they get sued. Because here's the thing, let's say you own it yourself. So if you don't have partners and you have an LLC to separate your assets and you get sued, write this down. Your LLCs are your assets. They're not divided. They're yours. But if you have partners, now you have division of assets. So smart. From the YouTuber with no rentals, thanks for the LLC rant. Always good stuff. Thank you. Monica, howdy. What are your thoughts on several investors getting together and to buy, fix entire neighborhoods? So I haven't partnered with many people. I haven't partnered with anybody yet. Come close with Millennial Mike, but I generally don't take partnerships because have you met people? But if you're talking about kind of renovating an area, I've actually considered this. I've thought, hey, if Millennial Mike, Zuber, me, Lumberjack Landlord, Dividend Dave, like whatever investors we want to clump together, we say, let's flip Gary, right? There's the group that Millennial Mike introduced me to. And I don't remember the name. I want to say Owens Brothers, but that's not it. They've done over 300 rehabs and renovations there and flips and for different investors. So they're trying to kind of flip Gary. They actually bought a house in Gary to live in Gary, even though they're doing really well. They're in a kind of area because they really believe in the area, and I should know their name. Put it in a linked comment. I'll pin a comment after this chat, after this video, when I remember their name. Olsen Group. If Matt wasn't asleep, he would know and he would put it there. I can't remember their name. But yeah, no, I thought of a bunch of us getting together, but that doesn't mean that we have to. Seller financing doesn't require LLC. Because it actually might even be a barrier to it. You can seller finance with an LLC, but most of them are going to want it in your own name. Matthew Paris, live long and prosper. I don't know that I would sign partnership agreements with other people to invest in an area, but if you had some investors that you trusted who are investing in an area and the investment made sense to you, I would consider it. So no, Alan, you don't need it for seller financing. What you need it for often is hard money. So if you go to a hard money lender, and this is something that's done in the US a lot, like you're in Turkey, but so it might be a thing there too. But in the US, people do the BRRRR method where you buy it, rehab it, rent it out, refinance it, and repeat. So they buy a property that needs a lot of work with hard money. So they get like a 12 or 15% interest rate, right? It can be really high for a year, or 9 months, or 60 days, or whatever the length is you can get them to agree to. And in that time, you buy the property, you pay for the rehab to get done. Once it's done, you put a tenant in place and you go to a lender and you say, look, I've got this property. It's really nice now. It's rented out for this amount. They look at the total value and they give you a regular loan for 30 years, fixed rate debt. You take that loan, pay off the hard money. And sometimes like Millennial Mike did, put 12 grand in your pocket on top of that. Then you have a mortgage on that property, but it's cash flowing still. So you have no money in the deal and it's cash flowing. It's an advanced strategy. Olson Group. Thank you. And I remember that. So the BRRRR is not something I suggest somebody starting with, because there's like all those steps that you can make one small mistake and all of a sudden your hard money is not paid off in time, or your rehab costs more than you expected, or takes longer than you expected, or the interest rates double like they did on Millennial Mike and his first two and last two BRRRRs. He's doing in the middle of his third now, but he had a portfolio first, or he had I think eight or nine rentals and then did the BRRRR method. That's what I suggest. So for hard money lending, most of those will require you have an LLC. Partnerships, you'll have an LLC. But seller financing, it's not required. You can do it, but it's not required. And I think we're going to be wrapping up around there. I hope that this has been helpful for everybody. You can watch the first 10 minutes on my break into what it was like on my first week of at least a month here in Portugal, that my course was launched. Today, I will put it in the chat one more time. It's how to reach financial freedom for the lazy investor. In 10 years or less, even if you're not starting from the best position. There's $100 off the people who buy the course in the first month. And in the first week, whoever buys in the first week has a chance to be one of 5 people who are going to get a free one-on-one Zoom call with me, so we can do a really deep dive into your specific situation and see what is the best path for you forward. Jody. I don't apologize. It is a first impression, and I'm trying to remain open-minded. I could have just ran into the wrong people. I'm sorry for the not so pleasant first impression of Portugal. The Americans are special, and most of the time happy and friendly toward foreigners. I have to admit, being European myself, we complain a lot and we are reserved. Reserved is probably the thing I wasn't expecting. I say hi to everybody, right? Spark up a conversation everywhere. It's really weird. Being an anti-people, I still like to interact with people when they're around me. And there are people who will flat out ignore you and stare at the wall instead of saying hi. And here, I'm the outsider. So it's like, okay, I understand. Where I'm from, if you do that, that gets you punched in the face. So I will enjoy the weather, and I'm sure I will meet nice. I've met a couple. Like I met the one guy that was really nice, and I'm sure I'll meet more. That'll be good. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me here. I will be continuing to trying to do these live streams on Tuesdays. It will sometimes depend on the Wi-Fi. An example is I had to do this in the lobby because the Wi-Fi in the rooms here is no bueno. Thank you, Chester, for the clickable link. I appreciate it. You're my hero. Wonder why mine didn't come out as a clickable link. But you can copy and paste it. But thank you. I hope this helps. And if you ever consider coming to Portugal, I at least broke down, you have Porto, which is really populated up north. Then you have Lisbon, which is the capital, which is still kind of populated. And those have more kind of harsher weathers, kind of like where I'm from. And down here, the Algarve, the southern area, has the best weather, beautiful beaches. I recommend going to the Benagil caves. They're amazing. If you can handle kayaking through waves for a mile both ways, the kayak is great. If not, they have boat tours that will go in there. The kayak, you can get out and go into the caves and walk around. Boat, they just go in, you look around, and you go back out because you can't beach the boat there. And I hope your experience here is better than mine. Thank you all so much. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.